So he was cheating. He was telling him moves.
Yes.
Oh wow.
But this was rather common, I think, in the past, yeah?
Oh, extremely
Like,
common.
also from my childhood, I remember there were a lot of suspicions about cheating, and it seems, now that it's more public, it actually became a bit better. Now that it's more, people are more, cognizant about how big of a problem cheating is.
Welcome back, guys, to the C Squared podcast. We're finally back in person. We have a very special guest today. We have the one and only Levon Aronian. He is a world champion, pretty much a man that needs absolutely no introduction. Levon, welcome to the C Squared podcast.
Thank you very much, Christian. It's a pleasure to be here, and especially to be recognized as a world champion.
You have been, I've done my research, yeah. You've been 2 times world champion, of course, Olympic gold medalist with team of Armenia. You have so many accolades. But first of all, you're just such a nice guy. So that's why we wanted you here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Levon, let's start with your early beginnings in the world of chess. Tell us how you started chess, who brought chess to your attention, who put you on this path.
Yeah, I'm actually from a chess kind of family. I mean, we always loved chess. So my grandpa played, my maternal grandpa, my uncle played, my mom plays, my own plays, and there was always this fascination about chess, especially, my grandfather obviously witnessed Petrosian boom, as we call it. And so whenever we would go to the village, which is actually closer to Tbilisi than to Yerevan. I mean, so it's the northern Armenia. My grandpa would try to teach me, which never actually worked, because I loved checkers, and and I was from very early age very competitive, so I always wanted to play checkers only. And then I think it was summer holidays. I was about to turn 9. We were visiting my paternal grandparents in Belarus, and I was annoying my elder sister. She's 6.5 years older than me, and she said, "Okay, I have to do something to this guy." So she taught me game of chess, and that was it. From that moment, I was not bothering her anymore. "Oh, Lily, take me with you to play. I don't want to stay here alone." And then I started playing with myself, and then I told my parents, "Can you take me to a chess school when we come back?" Mm-hmm. And my parents promised me, and this was 1991, so almost collapse of Soviet Union, very close.
That's the year I was born.
Yeah.
So I see. You started chess, I was born a great year, 1991.
And my mom, maybe it was my dad, I don't remember, one of my parents, they took me to the House of Pioneers, which is a Soviet establishment, and there was some kind of a little club for kids. I mean, my first coach, I can't say she knew a lot about chess. She was, I would say, first category player. Not so bad. But the important thing that she did, which I really value up today, she made sure I know the notation very well.
I think that's extremely important. Yeah, you can visualize a lot of things. That's highly important.
Yeah, and then, later it was kind of, it's a long story, an interesting story, and yeah.
Do you have a clear memory of your first competitive game?
So, I think I was playing in that club with little kids. And then I think my mom bought me a book of Petrosian, and then I started reading it, And then one day I came home and I said, "Mom, I played like Petrosian today." And then she said, "Oh, how come?" Well, I said I started with first C4, you know.
That was enough.
Yes. And then, I mean, you know me, guys. I had so much confidence
Yeah.
in me.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Always. And I came to the club one day, and I said, I invented this puzzle, which is made in one. I was so proud.
Was the puzzle with like long castle or something like that, like a difficult one?
I
Or
don't
was
even
it-
remember. Maybe under promotion or something.
Okay.
But I was so incredibly proud, thinking that, you know, I'm great. But I think my first tournament I played was actually Armenian Championship under 10.
Ah, okay. So it was already a very important event. in
Yeah,
the
well,
country.
I didn't know it was important or not. Or maybe I played some other tournaments. I'm not so sure. But one of the first ones, because I was 9 at that moment.
So you had already been learning chess for quite a while before you played your first big event, right?
No, actually. It was actually half a year.
Ah, okay.
And I won that one.
You won the under 10
Yes.
in your first year participation.
Yes.
That's pretty good. And was it
okay? It was actually. I mean, I won it, but it was not fair. I mean, you know, this was like during that time. This was like.
Put your microphone a little bit closer?
Yeah,
Just a little bit closer.
Yeah, so this was like the Wild West.
Yeah.
And so I'm playing this tournament, and I'm representing some school, and we're competing with kids from other school. And, you know, this is all government kind of backed things.
Yep.
So it's important you get like some sort of grants for your school performing well. And Gabi, who's on the first place, Gabriel Sargsyan, who's
yeah, of course.
far more experienced than me. So I was competing with Gabi and Varush Akopian.
Akopian.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Gabi is he's beaten me in this tournament. He's leading with half a point ahead of me. Or maybe we're on the same points before the last round. And he's playing against the guy who's on the last place, who has half a point. And this is for Duisburg. Whoever wins goes to Duisburg.
At the European Championships?
Yes. World Championship.
World Championships.
1992.
Yeah.
1991 was in Mamaya, I think.
Yeah, the thing with, especially in Europe, the thing with this national championship, youth championships, is that they pay for one of the either European Championship or the World Championship.
Yes,
Whoever wins it can choose. They can go to the World Championship or the European. At least that's how it was in Romania.
So it was almost the same
Very
system
similar
here.
Yeah.
So, and this is the first event we don't have to compete with Russian players, Soviet players, anybody. So this is like unique opportunity to go. And so I'm playing against somebody, I don't remember. And Gabi is clear to win and to go to take the first place. I might be second.
But if you get second, at least you get the European, right?
We were not sure back then. But little did I know that the coach, the head of the school, was actually hinting that guy who was in the last place.
Oh, wow.
And Gabi got into a completely losing position. And this kid offered him a draw. I won my game. And I went to the tournament.
So he was cheating. He was telling him moves.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But this was rather common, I think, in the past, yeah?
Oh, extremely
like,
common.
Also from my childhood, I remember there were a lot of suspicions about cheating, and it seems now that it's more public, it actually became a bit better. Now that it's more, people are more, cognizant about how big of a problem cheating is.
And I found this out, much later. Because we were all wondering, why couldn't he beat this kid? Gabi found it out maybe when he was already Grandmaster.
And were you guys like friends at that point already? You and
Well,
Gabi,
we're competing. We're competing. No,
So you weren't on like chatting. Were you on chatting terms, or like were you hanging out after the rounds and analyzing?
I think it's very competitive.
Very competitive.
We're a chess country.
Yeah.
It's very, and I remember. So, my parents, Soviet Union collapsed, so my parents lost their jobs. But they could keep their jobs, but they were basically getting the salary that was enough to buy maybe 1 kilogram of onions. So my father went to Russia, taking any jobs, and my mom was pushing me to become a chess player. But anyway, it's a funny story. So the parents of the other kids were very angry at me because I was extremely thin because we were poor. So I would always have blood running through my nose, during the game. So my mom would she made sure to look for somebody to sponsor me in order to buy some chocolates. And during the game, I was always eating a chocolate. And the other kids, didn't get that. I mean, they could. And their parents were always complaining. They're saying, look at this kid. He's opening his chocolate and our kids want it and they cannot concentrate on... It was a Twix bar, I remember, up to date. Yeah. It was maybe the tastiest thing I ever eaten.
Twix are great.
Back in the day.
That's an amazing story. And after that, what was your first, I would assume, international competition was the upcoming World Youth Championship?
Yes.
Was that still under 10 or?
Yeah, it was under 10. Maybe it was the first time they started doing under 10s.
Because it was before that it was under 12 or what was it?
I think it was cadets.
So under
juniors,
14 probably and under 20.
Yeah, I think like that.
Yeah. And now they do all age categories, I think.
Now it's under 8.
Under 6. Yeah. I'm not sure about that, but
I think under 8. I think
under 8 is the youngest,
I should prepare my daughter for under 6 already.
And I'm sure we're going to touch on that.
So you mentioned
as well.
that your family didn't have much money when you were growing up. Did you get any government support to help with chess, or was it your family driving that?
The government was collapsing. So in order to buy some books, my parents sold their library. My mom sold any jewelry she had just to get some of this. And so I'll tell you why, I had such a quick progress because, to be playing chess for 6-7 months and winning under 10, even though it's not in the most convincing manner, is strange. So this coach that I had in Armenia, I think her in the House of Pioneers. I think her daughter was dating a strong chess player for quite some time. And then she said to my parents, okay, this kid is way too good. You have to transfer him. Because I grew up in a neighborhood that is very far from the center of Yerevan. It takes 40 minutes there. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say the slums, but not the richest part of the city. And so she said, okay, you have to transfer the kid to good coach. And so we went to the chess club, and she said, go to this coach. He's a strong player. He's dating my daughter. And this was Melik.
Melik Satkacha.
Yes. And, Melik was, I think he's 12 years older than me. So he was fairly young. So I'm 10 years old. He's 22.
Yeah.
And what happened? He was a refugee from Baku because we had some ethnic problems, Armenians, Azerbaijanis. And he moved to Yerevan to study. Soviet Union collapsed. And all of the dormitories became privatized. Something that people could stay in became property of some people. It's not government anymore.
And then you have to pay,
And
it's going
he
to be
had
very
nowhere
expensive.
to stay.
Yeah.
And my parents said, why don't you come and stay with us? we try to give you everything we have, and you coach our son in return. So yeah, Melik lived in my family for 5 years.
How strong was he? You mentioned he was 22 at that point. Was he a grandmaster already?
No. I think he was. I mean, he was definitely very strong.
Yeah.
But like an IM level.
Mm.
And
That's probably all you need at that point anyway. I mean, you're just growing as a chess player. And he, I would assume, was very cultured as well, coming from a Soviet Union background.
And also, the school in Baku was traditionally
It's great.
very strong.
Yeah.
Lots of Armenian coaches, Jewish coaches, Russian coaches, Azeri coaches. But it was like a big center because, well, there was oil and it was a rich city.
Mm.
And therefore, he knew lots of coaches of Kasparov. And he would always go to sessions in Botvinnik school because he was one of the talented guys. And of course, it brought a whole new meaning. I mean, Melik coached so many players after me. And all of them have a special Melik's touch, which is, I think, typical. They're all very tactical players and can play blindfold well. This is something we've been practicing a lot with Melik.
But that's rather unusual for Armenian players, right? Because the stereotype is more positional style, I guess, coming from Petrosian times, that Armenian players are very positional and strategic players.
Oh yeah, but look, that's the interesting thing. So Gabi and me, our coaches were... So Gabi's coach was Ashot Nadanian, who was also from Baku, and Melik was also from Baku. So we never played the French. We never played D4.
You didn't play D4?
Never.
So when did you switch? Because I've always known you as a closed opening type player.
Oh, I think I started playing D4 when I was maybe 16.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Nadanian is famous for his...
Grunfeld? I think
his Knight A4, right? This is
Yes.
his famous invention.
Oh,
Knight A4
he
on the
has
Grunfeld.
many inventions, many interesting ideas. He was also one of those promising juniors, like Melik.
Yeah.
But of course, when you're a refugee, chess is the last thing on your mind, when you're running from the war. So they never became very strong because of that.
Speaking of those early challenges for your family, financial struggles and things of that nature, did you feel the impact of that at that age? Did you contextualize that, or you didn't really think about it? Your job was to just play chess and you understood that you were enjoying playing chess? And
it was basically what was happening. The whole empire is collapsing.
yeah.
Especially in Armenia, there's ongoing war. We also had devastating earthquake in 1988. So nothing is working. Everything is falling down. And at that moment, we have no electricity, no water, no heating. What you going to do?
That forces you to pretty much to mature, yeah?
Yeah. No, of course. And I remember I was 9. I won that tournament. And my parents told me, today you're going to get rid of your toys. They told me, pack your toys. I had this little beautiful, I would say, not a bag, but like a case that my father made for me. Because my father, being a physicist, but he's also a crazy handyman. I mean, he does everything. And so my dad made this thing for me, and he said, pack it, and we have to give it to somebody who you've never met. So we went to some house of some kid that I've never met before, and we gave him my toys. and that was it. It was time to
To move on
focus.
from toys to chess, yeah?
Yes.
The chess pieces basically became your toys at that
And
point.
yeah, and what my mom did, she quit her job and she started knocking on every single door looking for sponsorship. You know, she would spend 6-7 hours a day going to different like government institutions or some rich people's houses, trying to tell them, okay, this is a kid, he's very talented, he needs support.
But it's very difficult to make that case, right? That you are very talented. You just started playing chess. I mean, you're 9.
Yeah.
How could they understand whether you are? I mean, I understand your parents from your parents' perspective, obviously, but how about the sponsors? How did they get to understand that? How did your parents convince the sponsors to support you?
So, my mom, she's very educated and very motivated and a great motivator and somebody who can actually convince people. And I think that's what she was doing. She was going there and, when there is so much uncertainty about the future, people like to believe that there is their contribution. I mean, she wasn't like asking for $1,000.
Yeah.
She was asking for $20. This was a huge amount, and for these people who have, some businesses, some different government positions, it's really nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, and so they would, after 1 month or 2 months, everybody knew her. She knew this is this crazy woman coming and terrorizing us, waiting there always, and just knocking on every door.
So it was decided early, just on circumstance, that you would be a professional chess player from a very young age.
Oh yeah, at the age of 9.
You already knew, and your family already knew that this is your path.
Yeah, I think they basically told me. So there was a little problem as well with my school, because Yerevan was a very multicultural city, but during the war, after the war, and also financial troubles, we had lots of Russian people, lots of people of different ethnicities, but they all had to leave because financial problems, and the Jewish population went to Israel. And so at one point, because my father is Jewish, at one point I was almost the only blonde kid in the school, and I didn't speak good Armenian, and every day would turn into a fight. I would go into the school, and the kids would start bullying me because I didn't look like them, and I didn't speak the language well. And because we had some type of, I think all the Soviet countries went through the same thing. There was some rise of nationalism. They said, we're going to ban all the schools of different languages. Just leave a couple schools that are in Russian. So there was only one school that you could study and just knowing Russian, but it was so far from my house, and especially when you don't have electricity or water, transport also doesn't really work. I mean, in my part of city, I saw things like first aid cars on a horse carriage, because there is no petrol. So you can imagine growing up in this time and everything is frozen. Going to the school was a big deal, very difficult. So, and since spending time in Armenian school was always difficult because of those circumstances, my parents said, okay, you better do something else. So it was definitely, as you said, it's very risky what my parents did, but it wasn't because there was huge variety of
Yeah.
choices.
There's no plan B, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, we discussed this a while ago. I don't remember exactly when, but you did mention that very early on, and this stuck with me. You became pretty much the breadwinner in the family at a very young age. Can you speak a bit about that, and when did that happen?
Okay, since my mother managed to get some sponsorship, there was one very nice person. He had a airplane that he was using to carry goods and take it to Odessa and back. And he was helping me. I mean, his family. And later there was, I think he was the minister of, not the minister, what would be the word? The tax department, the revenue.
Yeah, a financial minister, something like that.
Yes, something like that.
The treasurer, maybe.
No, it's something to do with taxes. You know, the tax collector's office.
Yeah.
So that person also started helping me. And then once I started getting some results, the Minister of Transport and Communication started helping me because he was working with my father. So the reason why it was my mother doing all of this, my dad is very calm. He's a scientist. If you tell him to do this thing, he will do it perfectly. If you tell him, here, please take care of this, he will always do it perfect. But his own initiative is, he wouldn't go and knock on the doors and say, help my son. Because I think it's also a Jewish thing. Jewish people like to put themselves down and say, oh, everybody can do this thing that you're doing, He wouldn't be going like my mom and saying, this kid is special.
She's a very methodical person.
Methodical
she's more
and also very humble.
Yeah.
So when you're very humble, of course, you cannot push for others to support.
Sometimes it can work against you, I guess.
I've thought about this quality that you say your father has, and I think it's a very useful quality for a chess player, because we're already given the parameters on the chessboard, so we just have to. It's not like creating a piece of art. It's a bit different. Yeah, you don't create something from scratch. You kind of work things out on the chessboard. I sometimes felt like chess players have this quality where it's difficult to take the initiative, but to figure out something that's already its own world that we're quite good at. And do you feel like you have some of the qualities from your mother and your father? Like you have some...
for sure. I also share it with you. I think like that. And so what my father's job was, he was growing crystals for lasers. So I would go to his lab. Each stone, it has to be totally pure, 99.9%. So you kind of grow it with water. You basically do what happens in nature, and you put water on it, and you try to modify it to be totally pristine. And it was, of course, each stone, it takes continuous work of, let's say, 20-25 hours. You have to look at the spot, and you have to control the process. Control, add pressure, add water, and you have to know how it works. I think it was very useful for me to have...
It's discipline, yeah.
Yeah, the discipline, attention, and also the fact that I wouldn't get bored. Because that's one problem with a lot of chess players, kids.
Yeah, long games. I was always getting bored as a kid during long games. I like to play Blitz and Bullet, but long chess, it took a lot of time for me to get used to it.
I think especially nowadays that is going to be a huge problem, with social media and with all the distractions out there. It's going to be so difficult for kids to actually become chess players. I think we're going to see diminishing numbers of
But it seems to be the opposite, no? Kids are getting stronger and stronger at younger ages. At least that's how it seems.
In some parts of the world, yes.
Well, also the game has changed. Nowadays, the game is less deeper because we forgot how to play deeper chess. I forgot myself. I played so much Blitz and Rabbit
Yeah.
that I don't have this concentration to sit there and say, okay, let's figure this out. I'm more like an instinct player, and that's something that is a definite drawback that I need to come back to my roots.
And it's more practical now, because even in our classical games, the time control is rather shortened.
Yeah.
So you can't spend so much time without compromising, getting into time trouble later. And I don't, like, players tend to avoid time trouble. Like everyone is afraid of time trouble. I noticed it with Magnus first, that he hates to get into time trouble. He avoids it at all costs. And then with other players as well. Everything's sped up,
Yeah. No, this is something I always thought about, and I understood early on the main drawback of me as a player, that the use of time is terrible. I never understood how to use my time.
But you usually play super fast at the beginning, and whenever you get winning positions, you have enough time to actually convert those.
But quite often I can play very fast, and quite often I can get in time trouble when I don't have to. So this is, I mean, when I'm saying it's terrible, I'm saying for my level, of course. But that's a very difficult thing to master, actually, especially when the time is continuously changing.
Yeah.
And you don't know that's the biggest issue, because you don't know what will happen later in the game. So you don't know when you will need the time. It's one of the hardest skills in chess, proper time management. I noticed, like, very often in our games, you would almost always be winning when we were just starting to play. But at some point I would get chances. You would normally win anyway, because I would be in time trouble and you would have like hour and a half on the clock. But sometimes I would get chances because you liked to play super fast even in winning positions, and sometimes make some inaccuracies. Like, I remember in Vikings we played this game.
Berlin,
in 2012. No, not that one. That was 2013. But in 2012 it was this English. And I kept going into this English against you, and every time you would be crushing me. But at some point in the game, I was down a rook, but I had these connected pass pawns.
C5, D4, E3.
Yeah, it was very, very close. But still, you won the game. But at some point, I was getting very serious chances to survive. And I'd like noticed this trend happen, that you would, even in winning positions, I felt like you wanted to dominate your opponent, not just to beat them, but also to.
No, I think the reason was that I just never mastered that. It's one of the difficult things, and I never managed to get it, because generally it's so difficult with time changing continuously. I mean, especially that I started playing, when I just started playing, it was also a little bit of adjustment. I think I played for 2 years with adjustment, and then we're getting used to this format with 2 hours, 40 moves, 1 hour, and then suddenly it shortens and shortens. So it just drove me crazy.
Yeah. It just, for me, I didn't have that experience that you had early on. But I remember the time control kept shortening. At some point, like, the classical was 90 minutes with a 30-second increment, and that was it. And then we suddenly shifted to, like, so much rapid and blitz that those, like, well, the candidates recently had this very long time control, but besides that, it's quite rare now to have long time controls.
Yeah.
Which one do you enjoy more nowadays? The rapid, or getting back, let's say, to the classical time controls and experiencing those?
I actually don't care. I mean,
you don't care too much.
If it's nothing that is in my control, I can just relax.
Which one do you feel you're performing better in?
It's tough to say. I mean, it depends. Sometimes I think I play very well in Blitz. I think I should have won in Warsaw last year. I was dominating the tournament, and then closer to the end, I think I just got tired. And then sometimes I have very good results in rapid and classical. I think generally, if you're a good player, that's. I think this is all times of mythology. I think it started with Topi. Tuppy kept on telling people that he's such a bad blitz and rapid player that people started believing that this thing exists. And then people started talking about Fabi being not a good blitz and rapid player, being the second Topi. And he proved many people...
Things are changing very quickly, yeah.
He proved many people wrong. Such things don't exist.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to speak about it because it felt like you spoke very fondly of Gabriel Sargsyan and your friends in Armenia. And you guys did have some incredible results as a team. You are a 3-time Olympic gold medalist with the team. So that's simply impressive. In times when you guys did not have, on paper at least, the strongest team, right? Russia had incredible teams as well. How did you guys manage that team? You were obviously the leader and you were inspiring everybody on the team. How would you describe those years in the Olympic team?
Oh, these were brilliant years. I mean, it's not just Olympic, also the World Championship.
Yeah.
Back in the day when World Championship was a serious tournament, not a rapid event.
Like this year, World Team Championship. Yeah.
So I think the reason why we were playing well, when the generation changed and Gabi and I became stable members of the team, we had some kind of system. I told our federation that we're not going to have any nepotism anymore. So we have a clear system how you're going to qualify for the team. Because back in the day, I mean, we had that happening that I became Armenian champion and I had a higher rating than somebody else, but I never made it to the team. Not a single chance. Because
this old boys club,
all
the connections. The old boys club, that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. They would keep on, and when journalists would ask them, why isn't this young, talented guy playing in team? Oh, he doesn't have a correct attitude for team tournament. He's a bit too egoistic and...
But how were the results at that point when they were choosing based on nepotism? I would assume the results were not as good, right?
I was crushing those guys.
No, but them as a team, when they were going with the
they were playing
team,
well.
Were they still doing well?
They were playing very well.
Because as a coach or as a captain, you cannot sustain your career if your results are not good, right?
No, because these guys like Anastasian, Minasyan, they were always underrated. They were very good players. And I cannot really claim that I was better than them at the age of 18 or 16, 17. But if it was in any other country, I'm guessing if I had less rating and my federation was thinking about progress of the young players in the country, they would probably choose me rather than somebody who's maybe like 15 years older than me. And so when we came to the team, we said, that's it. I think there was 6 players back then. 5 players by rating and the champion of Armenia. And this just removed the whole tension. Because back in the day you were thinking, I got to be friends with this guy from the federation.
Politics.
He's pulling strings. And it was just super clear. Nobody had any objections. Nobody was angry. And also the former president of our country, Sargsyan, he did something which was also very motivating. He said, okay, guys, if you play well, the government will provide for you. You'll get good kind of financial gains from it. And this was also motivating because a lot of these guys, even Gabi, who's a very strong player, he wouldn't earn a lot of money throughout the year. And we had a great team, Akopian, Gabi, me. Then we brought back Mofsi. And also, we had type of an approach that we would share our knowledge. Because we were a team and we were, at that moment, not really sure that we will have any other chances to win this tournament or to come top 3. We would be very motivated like that. I think our results would continue being great. But at some point we had some misunderstanding in team, and I kind of got disappointed, and I think I wasn't really part of the team anymore. I was playing the team, but not really kind of pushing for it. I think it happened before the Baku Olympiad.
Before 2016.
2016.
Yeah, because I think it was Ilum Jinov. He came to Armenia and he asked for us to play. And, well, we're, of course, in a conflict situation. And then I told to my guys in the team that I do want us to go. I really want us to go. And also our president of federation and the country, he said, okay, guys, go. And for me, I look at life and I think life is just a challenge. If you have a chance to go into a country that your country is in a war with and to win there, it's a historical chance.
Absolutely.
You might not get such chance in your lifetime. Just to do it, just to try it.
Were your teammates worried about danger, especially in case your team would win in a country where,
yes,
which is very hostile to your own, where there's
yes,
a lot of
they
animosity?
They were worried, but I would understand if they would be kind of, okay, we're worried, let's not do that. But from one side, they were feeding me information that, yeah, let's go, let's do this. And from the other side, they were pulling some strings to make it impossible. So I felt, I felt betrayed.
Were these the players on the team, or?
Yeah, kind of players, coaches. And I felt, if you guys are not willing to take a risk, if you guys are not willing to try and do something historical that, you'll remember all your life, then I cannot be a part of this, because what we did throughout these years was historical.
Oh, yeah.
Winning 3 Olympiads.
Yeah.
And winning world championship and always fighting for the top. I also won European team championship. And we came second, third, many times. So I felt, this is betraying the spirit of the team. This is not what we do. This is not what we are. And then I kind of, I was trying to play my best, but I was not really helping the guys anymore.
It's
because
an intangible, right?
They never apologized.
Right. This spirit is an intangible that once you lose it, it's so difficult to regain back, right? Once this trust is broken, pretty much it's so difficult to regain back.
Yes, I mean, if I find out that you're spreading some rumors about me,
no.
I know you're doing it. No, but if I find out that the person who I trust, person who I go to war with, because
it is
a
war.
Team tournament is a war.
It
is talking to people and saying that, Lev is getting money for bringing us to Baku, spreading such rumors among other people. And that's just, am I that guy? Did I ever do anything like that for you to have?
They're attacking your character at
Yes.
that point. Yeah.
And that was just too much for me, because never in my life I've taken any bribes or, did something without telling to my friends. I mean, my loyalty is something that I'm very proud of and something that I cherish the most in my life.
And in your inner circle as well.
This must have been very difficult, because a lot of the players that you played with and worked with, they were also your personal friends, I'm sure.
Of course. It was, We've fallen out a bit after that.
Actually, I was reading about your career a little bit, and you mentioned Melik as being one of your initial coaches. But then in 2011, you started working with Nadanian. And at the time, you said that he's irreplaceable. You used those words. Now, I checked him, and of course, he's a theoretician, but again, he's not like a super grandmaster or anything of that nature. What made him irreplaceable in your eyes?
His character. I think his dedication, and I think we share same principles about life, and that was very important for me at that moment. We haven't been working together for a couple
Since
of
then,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, circumstances change. I didn't change my respect and love for him as a person, but now I'm looking for something else, you know, to do in the game of chess. So I kind of said, okay, maybe things are not working ideally for us. But as a person, he's one of the dearest people to me. He's very pure and very loyal and gentle.
Speaking of people you worked with, you were always like a long-time martial player, right? You were famous for being the best martial player in the world for a long time. And then also a lot of Armenian players followed suit. Was it that they were working with you and then they all started to play openings that you were working on? Or was it that you took some ideas from them?
It went both ways, actually. Well, I worked for a long time with Gabi. Then we always, I mean, it wasn't my doing, actually. This is Gabi's doing. He always involved young players.
Which is a very smart idea.
Yes.
In general, yeah.
I was always kind of, you know, let's have a training session. And he would say, let's invite this guy, let's invite this guy. So we kind of invited Melkomian, we invited Pashikan, then Manuel Petrosian, now.
A bit more recently, yeah.
Yes. And no, I loved this because we kind of managed to bring this new generation of players who are, I think the most important are good people. Because, you know, you're not just playing chess, you also, as a person playing international tournaments, you're representing your nation, your country. And that's what we want to do. We want people to know that Armenians are good people.
Fabi, you also mentioned this idea of inviting young players and that it's a very smart idea. Elaborate a bit about that. Why do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I was actually the same as you. I always had an idea that, okay, the guys I know, we've worked together a lot, so let's have a training session. And then at some point Rustam was saying, well, maybe it's a good idea to invite some young guys who have some fresh ideas. And then when I was working more recently with Chuchalov, he was also like, there's this young guy, he's like 20 years old at the time he was. Well, I think he still is 20. And he has some good ideas. It's just like, it's like a fresh approach, you know? Because we also tend to get set in our own ways, right? We have our vision of chess. And if we're working with some coach who is maybe from slightly older generation than us, like for you is Nadanian, for me, Rustam is slightly, he's not an old player, but he's a slightly older generation than me. And of course, everyone has valuable ideas, but sometimes we're only seeing our vision, right? And you get some young guys, and you think, okay, they don't know anything about chess. They're young. They have no experience, but still they have valuable ideas, which is it's good to have that different.
I absolutely agree with you, and quite often we're learning from them, you know, because I started looking. I'm always looking to learn things. I started looking. These kids are always playing bullet or things like this, and I thought maybe it's useful. Maybe it's useful to see like simple tactics, you know, just to imprint this in your mind that okay, this position has simple tactics like this, or you know, also to start playing many openings.
Well, speaking of, I mean, Hikaru made, like one of the best chess careers in history based on his skill in fast time controls, right? I mean, of course, he was also a great player in general, but that he's the best bullet player or one of the best blitz players. So a lot of players, like I was always told, as a kid, like don't play bullet chess. I remember I got reprimanded once. I was playing too much bullet on ICC, and I was working with Avruk at the time, and he told my father, "Do you know, people are telling me he's playing bullet at 2 a.m. And then they were like, "No, you can't play any more bullet."
That's a sin, yeah.
Yeah, and but it's also useful. I mean, now these kids they realize you can play everything. It's all useful for chess.
Absolutely. I always heard this about my obsession with Backhouse. People told me, "No, this guy's crazy. You're warping your mind to think that you might have some extra piece." But in fact, I think it's useful for attacks, and it's useful for fantasy.
Mm-hmm. And also for training your mind in general, just to think, so your mind doesn't get stale, or you don't get lazy. I think it's any kind of chess stuff is good, even
the duck chess.
Duck chess,
even duck chess, yeah. But coming from like a cultured background, classically cultured background, let's say, it's almost difficult to accept the fact that, maybe I should be playing some bullet occasionally, maybe 2-3 hour sessions of bullet. Maybe that's actually going to help me. I was personally not raised with online chess too much, but when I first arrived into the US and I started seeing everybody just like playing online, ICC, after that chess.com and things of that nature, and spending so many hours, and of course being also uplifted this type of chess by guys like Hikaru, by you as well on ICC, were always there. I had at some point, I was forced to say, I cannot only play classical chess, I have to start preparing in this faster time control. Was it some sort of attraction in your mindset to make that jump and start doing it?
Well, I'm very self-critical. I mean, my friends who know me, that I always try to understand how can I improve or what can I do. Of course, sometimes you go in the wrong way, but generally, this is what I like to do. And so I always look for, to see, analyze my games from a side and see what is missing there. And I realized that I think by playing lots of Blitz, I definitely improved my Blitz and bullet. I'm definitely a better Blitz player than I ever was. I mean, if I continue doing that, I think I'll keep my level in Blitz or bullet or rapid, because nowadays it's very important.
Speaking of that, actually, Blitz, bullet, rapid, Hikaru, you might be playing Hikaru in a speed chess championship. He hasn't won his match yet. I think he has to play Paravion. But in case he wins, that's going to be a match between you and him. What's your experience in rapid time controls with Hikaru?
I think I've beaten him a couple of times in those Magnus's tour. Generally, of course, it's a tough opponent to play online. My biggest disadvantage is I grew up with MS-DOS,
Yes, I remember those.
This, all these commands with keyboard. I never learned to use the mouse. And I have never played those Counter-Strikes or anything like that. So I never really managed to learn how to really operate it. So that's definitely his advantage.
Mechanics,
But when you played on Draken, I was watching live, and you were struggling in the 3-minute. I think you won the 5-minute narrowly. In the 3-minute, you were struggling. And going into bullet, you had a pretty serious deficit, like 3 points, right?
Yes.
And you completely dominated him in bullet, which surprised some people because they thought, I mean, you don't play bullet much. So normally you might not be so experienced or a bit rusty in it, but then you completely dominated him and won the match based on that.
No, I started playing a bit on some secret account. How it works. I think it's good.
Yeah. It can't. I mean, especially these days, because we have to play bullet every once in a while now in these matches. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Levon, something big changed in your life recently. You became a father. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, the floor is yours. Speak to us about your daughter.
Well, my daughter's name is Zabel. It's an Armenian name, name of our queen, daughter of King Levon, so easy name choice. And also, I really like, we have a poet and a singer, famous singer with that name, so I like that name. And so she's very, she has a lot of character. She's 42 days old. She's not sleeping. She always wants attention. But it's the greatest joy of life. You know, it's so relaxing. Holding your baby in your hands. It's a wonderful feeling. A feeling that I never had, and I'm very happy, and something that I look forward to, teaching her things. Hopefully teaching her the ways to be a good person.
A lot of things change, obviously, when you become a father. I want to know about how your view of the world changed. Your goals have changed in any way? Are you inspired
definitely.
by her in any way?
Definitely. I think I'm now more motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to play and to create and to be an example for my daughter, to be proud of daddy.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Fabi, do you want to be a father? Are you interested in that, or?
And probably not anytime soon. But, yeah, I can imagine it's very inspiring as well.
Let's speak also, because we did speak about your part of the career when you were representing Armenia, but now you're a part of the US Olympic team.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually played for the first time, represented the United States at the Olympiad in India. Tell us about your experience. What are the differences, the imposing differences between the Armenian team and the United States team, and also the similarities?
Well, of course, it's a great pleasure to play in a team with such strong players like Fabi, Lanier, Wesley. It's a different feeling. The reason why we played badly, well, I think at some point all of us got sick. I don't know if I had COVID or not, but it was looking like it. And it was, the organization tried to do everything, but summer in India is definitely not an easy time to spend. Yeah. And so I was a bit out of it, so I couldn't really play my best. But the feeling in the team is great. I think we had a great time, walking around and having each other's company. And I think this is some experience that reminded me of my time in Armenian team, which, despite the fact that it's very different, there I was a clear leader in Armenian team, and but here I also feel like, coming from players, I have a lot of respect, and a lot of players like my attitude, because I really enjoy analyzing and talking about chess and preparing together. And maybe I'll manage to bring this culture into American team, just to hang out together and enjoy being part of something big.
I actually noticed it for the first time, because I played in the US team since 2016, and we would have these team meetings, but we wouldn't discuss openings too much. And this time we started to discuss openings a bit more. And usually among top players, it's very guarded, you know? Like top players don't want to share things. But we had this funny story, because Robert Hess was our coach, right?
Yes.
And at some point I'm preparing, and I think you were resting that day. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so we were kind of discussing some line that my opponent might play that day, and it was a line in Najdorf. And suddenly Robert, just out of the blue, suggests some move to us in the Najdorf. And normally you suggest a move without a computer, it's not going to be a good one, right? But it turned out to be a very interesting one. And I didn't get a chance to use it that day because my opponent deviated. But anyway, I got a good position. But then a few weeks later, or maybe it was even more than a few weeks, you were playing Maxime in the Singfield Cup. And suddenly this position comes on the board, and you play this move. And I actually was very happy to see it played, because I'm always worried that like you find some idea and then someone else plays it. But it's good to see when your ideas actually come on the board.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, a relationship between me, Fabiano, and Lanier. We're living in St. Louis, and we're good friends. I think there is a lot of warmth in this relationship. And okay, now I didn't spend much time with the guys because I spent time with my daughter, but I bought a house.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to move there, and that's when the parties are going to start.
Big changes. Big changes. Now, actually, one of the things in relationship also to the Olympic team, and I do believe you mentioned this already, you guys were having camps before the tournament as well. Now, I don't think that happens currently with the US Olympic team.
We didn't have that before this Olympiad, no.
Do you think this might become some sort of a thing that will happen in the future? Do you predict that at all?
I hope to talk to the either federation or St. Louis Chess Club that supports the team, to organize that. I think that would be very useful.
Yeah, I mean, I would be open to it, but I don't know if all players would be open to it, because still, like, let's say a guy like Wesley, he's very private in his approach to chess. He doesn't work with other players so often, from what I know. Like we worked a bit. I worked, for example, back in the day with like Boris Gelfand.
Yes.
But Wesley, I don't know if he worked with other top players. So maybe it would take some adjustment for some guys to be used to this,
Yeah, it's definitely a completely different approach. I do know that Wesley tried to work with Tukmakov. I don't think that worked out very well.
He worked with he worked with Varush and Akobian at some point.
And Jeffrey.
And Jeffrey,
yeah.
Briefly, Jeffrey. And also, when we were preparing in 2018, we were working very closely with Lanier, of course.
Yeah.
That was...
So sorry to interrupt you. The way we were doing it in Armenia, we would have the team and the junior team all working together. Okay. So we should also do that here. I think that would be good to get, Jeffrey, Sevian.
Coming back to the idea of having young players around you. Yeah.
I think this is very good. You work together, you come up with ideas. Like the thing is, there is so much stuff still in the game of chess that you can learn, that you can always work on something that nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Because what we normally did, we would in our Armenian team, we would get together and just specifically prepare a certain opening for the certain tournament, out of the blue, from scratch, and this would
surprise a lot of people. Probably.
Yeah, this would be a very good idea, generally.
I think these days it's even easier to find ideas, because it feels like chess should be more explored and there should be less to find. But also technology is getting better and better and constantly showing us some new things. And whenever I check some opening that I haven't checked for a few years, I'm surprised. I think I did so much work in this opening and didn't even scratch the surface compared to what you can find today.
Except with Berlin.
Berlin is impossible.
That's a big problem. That's a big problem.
No, I was like...
the Berlin, oh man.
So I started working on this opening in 2012. Okay, many, many years after you were already working on it for sure. but I was working with Chuchalov, and he was like, I found the refutation of the Berlin.
Wow, beautiful.
And I played it, the refutation, against Karyakin in Bilbao in 2012. You were also playing there, right?
Uh-huh.
And I get to the position on the board, and I'm about to make the move, which is like the refutation. More or less, the computer says zeros, but then slowly, computer starts to get outplayed. And then I realize that he simply has this move rook g6, and I'm forced to move my g-pawn up, and my pawns get fixed. You probably recognize the variation I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, wait, what am I supposed to do if he plays this rook g6? And so I can't make the move that we prepared because I realize rook g6, like, it's just my pawns are fixed and it's completely done. I have no advantage. And so I make some other move, king g2. And after the game, Chuchalov was like, why didn't you play this move? And I'm like, but what about rook g6? And then we realized that the computer was completely leading us astray. That it thought g5 and white's better for some reason. The computers back then were still didn't have the positional understanding that they have now. It said, like, white has significant advantage. So still it was possible to outplay a computer a bit. But this refutation, I thought it was so funny. Just 2 minutes thinking at the board refuted like this 2 weeks of preparation for the refutation. So supposed refutation of the Berlin.
No, I had a story like this. I think in 2006, I played in Dagomus against Chucky. And then I prepared some line, and I knew that it works, and the computer was showing -2.5. And then I get this position. Okay, I know it's -2.5, but I don't see a move. So I lose the game like a patzer. I come to check with the computer. It is -2.5, gets to -2, but it's not clear what to do. So I said that this is a dangerous line. So not long ago, I was checking this game just to see, interesting, because unusual that the computers think that black is better. Okay, the modern computers show +1.5.
What was the year of it? 2008, you said? Or?
2006, I think.
2006. Okay. I don't remember that game, but it would be interesting to see.
It's this, in this A4, B4 Marshall, where you take DE 95, anti-Marshall.
Yeah.
And then there is some Queen F3, knight D2, knight F1.
Yeah.
And then I play Bishop B7, Bishop C5, King H8, knight D4.
Mm-hmm.
So his knight is already on G3.
Yeah.
So knight takes E4, F5, knight C5, Bishop F3, GF. So the computer back in the day thinks the queen is just... Queen is so much stronger than three pieces.
Of course. Yeah, this is one thing that computers used to underestimate enormously. Like, it was very famous in these Grunfeld lines, where white plays E5.
Yes.
And then takes on F6, takes on G7, and black wins the queen with like Bishop E6, and white gets these three pieces. And I remember like early computers, maybe not so early, but like let's say some early version of Ripka would say more or less like black is winning.
-1.
Yeah, something like this.
I know.
And then you realize like, okay, three pieces of course are, even we understood it back then, but it was still difficult to disagree with the computer. And now of course computers say like +1 and confirm our old intuition, which is kind of nice, that our intuition was holding up objectively. But yeah, I know exactly the variation you're talking about but I don't remember exactly the game against Ivanchuk.
Yeah. I lost like a complete patzer, and I was so angry at myself for not analyzing it deeper. And then I went back to the room the same day. I analyzed the position for 5 hours, and I concluded that I don't understand what he wants, and
But somehow every year it changes, right? We feel like whenever we are in the moment, we're analyzing with like the strongest entities that will ever be, right? And we trust them fully. And then next year, the next stockfish comes and it shows completely new variations and new evaluations. And then our whole mindset changes.
Yes, our illusions are basically computer solutions. Yeah. Our variations are, when we're claiming something, quite often we're claiming computers.
Computers, and it always changes. Every single year it changes. Actually, every new iteration of stockfish changes.
And that's the beauty, because it says that those guys back in the day understood chess very well. Because like some openings, let's say, that were abandoned because of early computers. Let's say this orthodox Queen's Gambit. Bishop E7, C6, knight D7. Yasser's pet line. Nowadays computers I mean, already for 3-4 years, understand that black is totally fine.
Even like Makagano variation or things like that, which they're probably fine as well,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of classical lines, which at some point were considered like a bit better for white, and then we realized, they're like modern engines. They showed us that most things are playable, rather than the other way around. That the stronger you play, the more you can make things playable. Even some lines which were previously considered very, very dubious.
Especially if you're a masochist like Fabi. He's known to be choosing the worst possible line of the opening and continuing to play it.
No, it's true. I was always attracted to the bad. I mean, we spoke about this yesterday even. Always. At some point at the Olympiad, we were discussing with Wesley. And I'll make some moves on the board,
Yeah, of course. This is the weirdest chess set, by the way, I've ever seen in my life, I have to say.
The bishops are split in two. Oh, yeah, this is Fabi's proud moment.
So I'll tell the story about this. This is a very well-known theoretical position. White plays bishop d3, more or less black equalizes with old methods which were discovered a long time ago. And at some point I'm with Rustam Kazımcanov, and I'm also with Dieter Nisipianu. And Rustam suggests a move, f3. And more or less it's clear that the move either wins a piece or black plays queen h4, forcing g3. There's no other move. Take. Wins a rook on h1. White plays the move queen f2. And computer says like -2.5 to 3. And Rustam was like, yes, but let's analyze it. So we analyzed this for a few days, this position. More or less black wins with some very, very difficult ways. Black can win, objectively winning. Or black can get a good position with some other more natural ways. And then at some point I'm playing a rapid match against Wesley. And I played this. And he thought for years that I just like mouse slipped, more or less. That I just made a mistake by playing f3. And then in the Olympiad I told him, no, I prepared this for days for you. I prepared this line for days.
Garbage, yes.
Which is -3, like computers just say it's losing. And okay, he played something.
I guess
remember
queen
exactly.
h5 or
Yeah, he played queen h5.
So how do you catch it?
I mean, I
Bishop
think it's like
D3
bishop
probably.
D3,
f6, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it's like somewhere f6. Something
With
like,
queen h2, right?
Something like this happens with bishop g5. White regains the exchange. I don't remember exactly
And
because
equalizes comfortably.
yeah, at some point I equalized in this game, and then later lost because even after you equalize, you still have to play accurately. So there was no point.
Equality, yeah.
More or less, if black knows nothing, like Wesley was just playing practically, just very fast moves, and he got to position. Of course, it's not the best way for black, but even if he does this, still, there's no point to it. I think it's actually continuing like here, and here, more or less. Something like this, yeah.
It actually looks like French.
Yeah.
Good French, very good French, yeah. So
Good French for
Wesley was shocked when I told him, no, this was my preparation.
The beginning of a beautiful friendship. Yeah. Well, Levon, I think we covered a lot of ground. Thank you for joining us. We haven't done one of these in-person interviews in a while.
Perfect.
And you came in dressed super sharp. Now you kind of made me feel bad about myself. This guy always looks good. So, yeah, we'll see you tonight at the gala. We're going to have a lot of fun. That will be a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully we'll have you in future episodes as well.
Thank you,
Great.
Levon.
Thank you, guys.